are we in a white-collar recession?
According to the data, yes.
Yeah.
We came out of the Great Resignation, which is where we saw for about 2.5, 3 years, record numbers of people leaving their jobs. It was over 4 million a month. It was absurd. In 2021, we just saw this. Everybody's like, okay, I don't think the world's coming to an end. Not sure where we're working or how we're working, but companies began to reinvest. They saw the government put a lot of money into the marketplace. And so companies started hiring, and it was like, all right, I'm going to pay you more to come over here. And that created the musical chairs. And so that took up salaries and hourly wages. And so it was the Great Resignation, because what it really was the great hiring. It was like companies were competing big time for talent. And so everybody was cashing in. People were leaving for 15 to 20% hikes. It was an unbelievable economic development. So that slows down. And so out of that comes this white-collar recession.
What is going on, guys? JC Nita here, property owner, investor, and online content creation dabbler, back with another video. And today we're going to keep talking about how bad the job market apparently is and if it's going to get any better in 2025.
This job market is way worse than you actually think. Like, if you're not actually in this market looking for a job, I truly don't think you know what it's like. It's brutal. Like, people are like, oh, unemployment is low. There's so many jobs being posted every single day. And yes, there are so many jobs being posted every day. But like, majority of those are just ghost jobs that don't really even exist. Companies will just post these jobs to post them, either for tax reasons or to gauge interest, but they have no intention of hiring. Like, I've been unemployed for 6 months and I have applied to so many jobs. Like, so many jobs. And I've heard back only from a handful of those. Either I'm ghosted through the process or I just don't get the job. And it's like, when I do hear back and I'm interviewing, these interviews last for so many rounds. I'm talking like 5, 6, 7, including case studies and presentations for the case studies. Like, I've gone down to the final round so many times, and it always comes down to like me and a couple of other people or another person. And it's just so competitive out there. Like, I've invested months of my time in a company only to get rejected. It's such a frustrating process. Like, I have over 6 years of work experience and I have a degree, and it's just brutal out here. And when people say, oh, the market's not actually as bad as people are saying, like, no, you're clearly not looking for a job and you're not going through this process.
So I'm thankful that I'm not in the position to be looking for a job right now. I'm gainfully employed, knock on wood, and thank God for that, because it just seems like it's just a nightmare to be in the job market right now. So if you are in that position, I really feel for you. I know people personally who are in that position close to me who have been laid off recently, who have been laid off a long time ago and are still out of the job, are still looking for a job, and it's really tough for them. So I feel the pain. I'm empathetic to it and I'm sympathetic to it. And I'm just thankful for the position that I'm in. Now, she did mention something here about ghost jobs. That is a very real thing. And I know that because I used to work in human resources. That was my career field. And I didn't work in hiring though. I worked in a different section of HR, but I did work closely with hiring. And so I remember at a meeting one time, one of the managers who was over top of the hiring portion in where I worked was talking about how there was a huge task that her and her team were about to take on, which was to delete all the old job postings that were currently posted on the job board. And people every day were posting to those expired job positions, hoping to get the job. I don't know if there were dates. I mean, a lot of the jobs had dates listed on them. So if they're applying to a job that was posted 7, 8 months ago, that should be an indication that it's probably no longer open. Nonetheless, that's an issue too, not just ghost jobs, but companies having old positions up that they haven't taken down. But ghost jobs are real too. She mentioned that a lot of companies do post jobs just to gauge interest, or they post jobs to develop a repository of future possible candidates. So in the future, whenever they need to hire for that position or a position like it, they can dig into that pool of candidates, reach out to them and see if they're still looking for work, which is kind of, it's like, it's dangling the carrot in front of you that you can't touch. It's like, oh, well, we'll put this out here to gauge how you feel. No, we want a job. That's why we're applying for the job. We're not applying just so that 2 years down the line, if you happen to need to fill the position, you can give the job to, or give us a call. No. The last thing she mentioned here was the multiple rounds of interviews. I also have friends personally that have gone through this. Oftentimes this happens in tech related jobs, especially programming. They'll have you do multiple rounds of interviews, and they'll have you do skill-based interviews as well. So it's not just simply, I sit down, okay, we have the initial conversation, then you take I've done this too when I was applying for jobs maybe a couple years ago. You might do a questionnaire, you might do a multiple choice test. They want to know what your personality is like. They might give you a personality test. Then after that, if you pass that round, then you go and you do a skills-based test where you do some kind of online, almost like you were in school almost. I know one time I did a test where they made me manipulate an Excel spreadsheet. So it's no longer just you apply, you have one round interview where it's a conversation, and that's it.
35 and homeless. I am for the first time going to ask you to please consider sticking around. I think I do have some great insight based off of what I'm currently going through. Today's a frustrating day. I was scammed this week, and pretty annoyed more than anything at the loss of my time in being scammed for an open position. Which brings me to my numbers. I'm approaching 1,900 job applications in 2024 alone. With how quickly I work, I will be over 2,000 job applications by the end of this weekend. And I've had 16 interviews. Yeah, it's really frustrating. And before anyone starts, you should go do this. I have 8 resumes that are keyword optimized for career positions that I've held in the past. I have the additional 3 resumes that are geared towards part-time work, one for food service, one for warehouse work, and one general one that I can just hand to someone if they ever ask for it. And I'm approaching 1,900 job applications this year.
Okay, I'll be honest. When he first said he did 1,900 applications in 2024, in my mind, I was like, dude, how tailored are you making these resumes or these applications? Because to get 1,900 applications in a year is a long time. And 1,900, I mean, that's a lot. So, but he said it here, he's tailoring his resumes. He has different resumes for different positions. So for all intents and purposes so far, it sounds like he is not just phoning it in. So let's see what else he has to say.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. Been homeless now for just over 3 weeks. Lost my car. My dog and I are staying with an incredible host family that is going to be taking care of us for the next 2 weeks. But I just want to be back out on my own. I'm more than capable of taking care of myself. I've had to accept some help over the last couple of weeks, and that's something that I've never done before, primarily because I know that I'm capable of working my way out of it. And during the day, I work on my practice, but without funds to even feed myself, I can't really afford to market myself either. So I kind of just gotta hope I run into someone at the park or at a community event, because I can't afford to go to networking dinners right now. And to be the cherry on top of this wonderful Sunday, we've been pushing STEM education for several decades and telling kids to go study computer science. And I just found out that a couple of very large companies, including Salesforce, are not going to be hiring for those positions in 2025 because AI can do their job. And how awesome is that we've been telling people to go, into computer science, and one of the key roles that's always been available for them in Silicon Valley is just not going to be there anymore. And it's absolutely wild to me.
2 things. First and foremost, he's been homeless. And again, I feel for the guy and I hope that he gets out of the situation very fast. But I will say there's always work. I mean, where I live, there's gas stations. Everywhere there's gas stations. But there's a particular chain of gas station places where I live, and they're always hiring. Every time I go in to get coffee in the morning, I see the sign on the door, hiring now for the people that aren't the managers. I forget, like the floor staff, starting this at this hourly rate. And I see the sign next to it, hiring supervisors, starting at this hourly rate. So you mean to tell me you couldn't go to one of those gas stations or to, I mean, he mentioned he's applying to warehouse jobs, so I guess that's that. He said food service as well, so I guess that's that. But you mean to tell me that, Costco, Sam's Club, Kroger's, whatever is around you is not hiring just to have some money coming in? I don't know. I don't know. And then the other part he mentioned about AI automating everything away, I don't think we're there yet. Now, sure, AI is taking things over, but AI is still in early stages. There's a lot of generative AI right now, but generative AI, like the chat GPT type of AI. And there's other AI too, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if we're at the level yet where maybe what he's saying is there's not as many positions in CS, computer science, and programming there as there were before. However, I think also a big part of that is that companies just overhired for those positions. And so now, there's other factors too. Companies overhired for positions. The economy got a little bit tighter. Interest rates went up, so they didn't have as much money to hire people. There's other factors. So I wonder how much that goes into it, but I don't know. Something here just feels off to me. I'm not quite sure, if there's something not being said or something being missed. I don't know, but we'll see what else he has to say.
So I don't know what the fuck's going on with this country. I don't know if anyone's actually hiring, and I'm not applying on LinkedIn, Quick Apply, or Indeed. I'm using the boards, of course, and using other job boards like Flex Jobs and stuff to find positions that I can apply for. But most of my jobs I apply for on company websites. So 1,900 job applications. Can't even get seasonal work. So I don't really know what to do. I'm going to figure out a way to reset over the next couple of hours and just keep on applying for jobs this evening. And the reality is I want to keep on doing what I'm doing, but you can't keep on doing the job if it doesn't pay the bills.
All right, so let me go and see what some of the comments say on this, because I'm interested to see what people are thinking, because I'm kind of confused. I'm not confused. I just want to know, is there more to the story? So let's see. Well, someone writes, I can't leave my toxic job because I can't find a different job. Now, I mean, that is unfortunate, but at least they have enough wherewithal to stick it through until they find something different. In another video I did, I was talking about how, a lot of people were quitting their jobs, and some people were quitting their jobs because they were stressed out mentally from the work and the job environment or what have you, but they had nothing lined up afterwards, which to me, like I said, I was always taught before you leave one job, you have another one lined up. So that's interesting. So someone said, it doesn't matter what you know, it's who you know that gets the shot or the slot. So I have to agree with this person. It's a who you know type of thing. So you can apply to 1,000 jobs. Most of those applications are never going to be seen by a human being. It's that simple. Applicant tracking system is going to knock it out, or they're just going to take the first 20 that they went over, or you have to realize a lot of people are applying for jobs. And so these hiring managers are getting inundated and flooded with applications. So even if you have a really stellar application and you're a great candidate, they may never see your application for the sheer fact of volume. They're overwhelmed with the volume. So, but let's say that you know somebody who knows someone in that company who can go put a word in to that manager. Then your resume automatically gets moved to the top because now you have a warm lead. And this is honestly how I've gotten like 90% of my jobs. Not saying that, you shouldn't apply online, but I think that focusing on developing relationships and tapping into your network is a bigger cheat code to get the job. So I'm sad. This person says, I'm at 400 applications and facing losing my home. I also don't know why to do. She meant what to do. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you and anyone else. So this is sad. And I was thinking to myself, why is he homeless? How did they get that bad? But again, it makes me think about people I know personally who they've been unemployed for over a year. Had they not had a lot of savings stockpiled, they'd be in trouble. Not to mention they had other ways to reduce their expenses, but just going without work for 19 months, 2 years, 15 months. Most people have money to sustain themselves that long. So yeah, I don't know. Wish them the best. And if you're going through this, I wish you the best as well.
We are in for a big year in 2025. Here are my predictions for the job market coming from an ex-recruiter in HR. First one, this is going to sting to say, but I think we're going to see the end of remote work. As companies are going to offer that as a perk, more companies are going to do return to office. We're going to see more hybrid roles. But if you have a fully remote role right now and they're not going to change, please, for the love of God, stick with it. Keep it. On the plus side, though, I think we're going to also see the end of cover letters. Because I'm letting you know right now, only 1 out of 10 recruiters are going to read cover letters. They would rather see a portfolio. They would rather see experience. So we're going to see the death of those and more experience work. Speaking of experience, I think that's the next prediction. They're going to value experience over education, especially when it comes to things like AI. I'm not saying school's not necessary, but if you have more experience over the other candidate, you are going to get the job. Something that's also going to help you get the job is going to be referrals and internal moves within the company. This is why who you know is always going to be more important than what you know. The last one, I do see less layoffs, but there are going to be some periods of hiring freezes. You got to get ready for that.
Okay, so first to start with the low-hanging fruit cover letter, I'm so happy that he thinks that's a prediction. I stopped using cover letters a few years ago because I already knew. Again, I worked in HR, so I kind of had a better idea than most people. But again, I didn't work in hiring. But cover letters, those are done. Just like I never use now, what do they call those things at the top of the resumes people use? It's not a cover letter, obviously, but it's like a section at the top of your resume. You put a couple paragraphs of, I don't know, I don't even use this. I can't remember what it's called. Whatever. But X that, don't use it, not necessary. If anything, take the skills section that a lot of times people put at the bottom of their resume, move that to the top of your resume above your experience and get rid of the other thing that I cannot remember the name of. Then list your experience from there. Because again, as he mentioned, experience over education. Now, this is nothing new. I don't know why he's predicting this. This has been the case. When has it ever been that education was valued over experience? I don't think that's ever been the thing. Now, some jobs you need to have that education. Like if you want to become a doctor, for example, you have to have the education, obviously. But even as a doctor, who do you want to go see more? A doctor who's been in the game 20 years or a doctor who just started? He also mentioned, the return to work. That's a big one. And I have a couple videos on that as well. There's a big push to return to work. A lot of big companies like Amazon and even Zoom, ironically enough, are pushing for return to office mandates, some up to 5 days per week. I think Amazon is 5 days per week in office now. And there are many reasons for that. You can check those videos out to see some of the reasons why, but that is definitely a trend that's happening. And then he also touched upon a point that we just talked about, which is who you know versus what you know, and a lot of internal movements within the company. Now, obviously, that doesn't do any good if you're not already working for the company, but still tap your network. For every resume you do, try to think of a way that you can decrease a degree of separation between you and the person working for the company, or even better, in a position to get you either to the hiring manager or to someone who knows the hiring manager, which is easier said than done. A lot of times now companies have, not paywalls, but the equivalent of a paywall. It's called the application wall. You won't see their email addresses posted online. So unless it's like a public company, so it's difficult to sometimes know who to even send the email out to, or they may not get back to at all. But if you can and you know someone, that's obviously the way to go. With that being said, if you made it this far into the video, I really, really appreciate you for sticking around. If you enjoyed the video at all, or if you found any type of education from it, feel free to give it a like. And if you feel so inclined, to subscribe, because it really does help with the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, make smart financial decisions.